ぷぷー。宇宙から来た魔法猫少女ププドフです。How's it going? My name is Pupudorf and I'm a magical cat girl from outer space called Pupu. How's the volume, by the way? 音量とか大丈夫ですか？うん。大丈夫そう？大丈夫そうかな？うわ。そう、今日はですね、バイノーラルマイクじゃなくて、いつも、配信で使ってる、Your filter? The static noise. I put on a background noise. It's a fireplace noise so that it sounds more cozy. 大丈夫かな？今日の、音声は、そっか、あれ使ってるか大丈夫かな？はい、ちょっと待って。Oh, right. That's annoying. ちょっと待って。Okay, please wait. I know something is wrong. ちょっと待ってね。なんでこれさ、毎回アクティベートしないといけないんだ？ねえ。ちょっと待ってくださいね。うん。これで大丈夫でしょ？めんどくせえな。I think it should be fine now. I have just activated. Yes, yeah, I know that issue. It's I purchased the filter, but it requires me to activate the filter every single time, which is annoying, but I did it just now, so it's fine. さて、今日はですね、ちょっと主に英語で、今日は配信メインは英語になります。なぜかというと、ちょっと英語のね、エチチな小説を読みたいと思いますので、いちいち翻訳できないんです。で、翻訳したらちょっとやばいことになっちゃうので、今日はね、英語メインでやらせていただきたいと思います。So today's stream is going to be mainly in English because I'll be reading some steamy stories in English. So I hope you guys will enjoy that. はい。ということで、ちょっと今日の、どの小説を読んでるか。そう、事前にですね、今日の配信はね、成人向けなので、18歳以下の方は、今日の配信見ないでください。Yes, so today's stream is for people that are above the age of 18, so if you are underage, if you are a minor, please do not watch this stream. はい。ということで、今日の そう、みんなね、もし一緒に読みたければ、こちらの、今読んでる本のタイトルと作者さんで検索してすぐ出てくると思うので、ぜひチェックしてみてください。So if you guys want to watch, if you guys want to read the story alongside with me, please Google the title and the author that I have in the description. It is all available for free on Wattpad. And of course, there are some words that cannot be read on YouTube. I will be censoring those words. そう、まあ、でもどうしてもね、言っちゃいけない言葉とかあるので、それはちょっと、効果音で、ブッとか、ピーとかで、ごまかしちゃうんですけど、まあ、かなり大人向けの内容になっておりますので、ちょっとキッズは、禁制です。I haven't read a steamy novel for a long time. Oh, really? When's the last time you read one? はい。ということで、1番目のストーリー。Take me now, Mr. Teacher. これ先生との恋愛の物語ですね。はい。まあ、これからはもう訳さないんで、ご自由に読んでみてください。Okay, I won't be translating anymore from now on, so please, yes, read it as you please. Okay, let's go. もう最初から。Oh, there's a word that I cannot say from the beginning. Hi, Tommy. Good morning. Boop. Why does he have to look so damn good in his black dress pants that's showing every crevice, and tight button-up shirt showing off his taut muscles? His long black hair was mid-back. His native features were visible and strong. Oh, so masculine. He has the most beautiful black eyes that seem to look into your soul. I bet he's tan all over. I just want to. Miss Flores, I asked you a question. I was brought out of my thoughts with a start. I looked at Mr. Longwood with confusion. Huh? He sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. He looked at me with those intense black eyes that were unreadable. I inhaled sharply at his intense gaze. I started to feel the blood rush to my cheeks as I held his gaze. He seemed amused about my situation. His lips twitched and he sharply inhaled. Well, Miss Flores, it seems you will be serving detention tomorrow after school. Understood? All I could was nod. He nodded his head and continued with the class. I let out a breath I did not realize I was holding. Damn, that was so embarrassing. I am never going to live this down. Hey, Maria, are you okay? Janice, my best friend, whispered from behind me. I turned around and smiled. Yeah, I am just distraught, that's all. Janice giggled and leaned in close in my ear. You were ogling him again, weren't you? I was about to deny it, but I heard someone clear their throat. I looked up and squeaked when I noticed Mr. Lone Wolf standing in front of my desk. Oh shit. Miss Flores, not only were you not paying attention in my class, you seem to be distracting your classmates from paying attention as well. I opened my mouth, but no words seemed to come out. I just closed my mouth and gave him a blank look. He sighed and gave me a pink detention slip. He then walked up to the front and continued once again his lesson. I took the time to look at my slip, and my eyes widened. The bloop. I have deserved detention this whole week. I started to curse him under my breath, but obviously, the sexy creature has sonic hearing, and he turned to me once again. Miss Flores, is there something you wanted to say? He lifted his brow in a seductive way. I blushed and shook my head. All the girls in my class started to giggle and whispered under their breath. And I, pretty sure it is about me. He shushed the class and continued. The hour dragged, and at last the damn bell rang, and it was time to go home. Miss Flores, I needed you to stay after class for a moment. I inwardly groaned, but I nodded my head. I looked towards Janice, who gave me a devilish smile and licked her plump red lips. She mouthed, "Have fun," and left, laughing. I rolled my eyes and groaned. I stopped when I heard someone take in a harsh breath. I looked around and saw that all the students have left. I then looked at Mr. Lone Wolf, who was sitting on top of his massive cherry oak desk. He was looking at me from head to toe, but his expression unreadable. He at last made eye contact, but I chickened out and looked away. I cleared my throat and sat on one of the desk tables, my stupid plaid skirt that was way too short for rose-up. I hate these school uniforms. I look like a nerdy slut. I pushed my thick glasses back up and looked at him. I started to blush when I saw his hungry gaze on my legs. They were much to look at. Well, to me. I always felt like I towered over everyone with my 5'9" height. The skirt and high heels made my legs look even longer, which I hated with a passion. I coughed and looked at him. So, what was it you wanted to talk about? Damn it, why did I have to stutter? He got up from his desk and walked towards me, almost like he was stalking his prey. His eyes seemed darker than before, lust-filled. I looked a bit lower and I felt my eyes widen at the enormous bulge in his pants. My mouth My mouth became instantly dry, and it felt like someone has turned on the heater. I licked my lips, and he gave a low growl. I shivered, and I felt wetness between my legs. He stood before me. A wild look seemed to settle on his face. Mr. Lone Wolf, is there something wrong? Bloop. I need to stop stuttering. It is so unattractive. You know exactly what is wrong, Maria. You have been a very disrespectful girl. Always interrupting my class and talking. I think it is time I taught you a lesson. Before I could utter a single word, Mr. Lone Wolf pulled me from the seat and pulled me towards him. My body became molded to his. My breathing started to become rapid. I licked my lips. His eyes followed the trail of my tongue, almost memorized. He looked into my eyes. They were burning with so much lust. My glasses started to fog up a bit, but it did not obscure my vision. Maria, what are you doing to me? He whispered huskily. He brought his mouth forcefully upon mine, his kiss demanding. I kissed him back with the same intensity. I wrapped my fingers around his neck and my legs went around his waist. He placed his hands on my bum. Supporting me, I started to grind on him, making him growl in the process. I was yanked from this heated embrace and placed on a hard surface. I looked to my side and I realized I was on top of his desk. All the papers were scattered to the floor. I looked up to Mr. Lone Wolf, who was leaning over me, a smirk plastered on his face. He had handcuffs with a long chain attached to them. Mr. Lone Wolf, what are you going to do with those? I said in a rush. I was still trying to catch my breath from the intense make-out session.
I told you that I was going to teach you a lesson.
With that, he placed the handcuff on my wrist and attached the chain to his desk. He got off me and went to stand on the side of me. I tried moving my arms, but they were immobile. I looked at him, and my eyes widened at what I saw. He had taken off his shirt and was bare. My hungry eyes took him all in, to his six-packs, his tight pecs, and muscular arms. He was mouth-watering, just like I imagined. Miss Longworth, what are you?
Quiet. You are only allowed to speak when I say you can.
I moaned at his dominant tone. I started to struggle against the handcuffs when he started to caress my legs, lightly touching them. He started to move his hands up my inner thigh under my short skirt. Then he started teasing me by pulling lightly on my little panties.
Looks like someone is very eager for me,
he teased. I groaned in frustration as he kept touching agonizingly, slowly. He started to unbutton my shirt. Each button he undid, he placed a soft kiss. I wanted him so much, it hurt. Mr. Lone Wolf, please, I begged. I was panting and shivering in anticipation. I heard him growl, and he grabbed my shirt and ripped the rest of the buttons off. My skirt was pushed up, exposing my white panties, and my white bra was at his view. I turned a bright red when he looked me over. I tried covering myself, but my hands were still chained.
Why are you trying to cover yourself?
You're beautiful. I blushed even harder. I nervously chuckled, but it turned to the moan when he kissed me forcefully. I wrapped my legs around his waist, making him land fully on top of me. He at last undid the handcuffs, and I wrapped my hands around his neck, deepening the kiss. I felt him unbuckling his belt, and I helped undo his pants. He pried me from his body and stood back, making me growl in frustration. He stood in his tight gray boxers. His bloop was straining against his boxers, making me want to rip away the fabric and release his aroused bloop. So I walked up to him, taking charge, and stripped him of the suffocating fabric. He at last stood in all his glory, exactly like I imagined. His skin was smooth all over, except for the patch between his legs. He once again pushed me against his desk and ripped my panties and bra. I was laying there for his eyes to feast on. This time, I was not embarrassed. He bent his head towards my breast and grasped my lip in his mouth. I moaned in painful pleasure he was creating inside me. He roughly sucked on them, nipping and sucking. Mr. Lone Wolf looked up at me with his beautiful eyes and started to spread my legs wide apart without breaking eye contact. My was wet and ready for him. He positioned himself between my legs, then grabbed onto my ponytail and given it a rough pull, making me moan in the process. I felt the tip of his
boop, entering my boop. Mr. Longwood. Maria, get your boop up. You're going to be late for school. I woke up with a start and fell off my twin-sized bed. I heard my alarm blazing off, and I shut it off. I groaned and rubbed my face. Damn, it was just a dream. I got up and started to get ready for school. Another day of pure sexual torture. I don't think I'll be able to take this much longer. I groaned and rushed downstairs and out the door, saying goodbye to my Nana at the door. I hopped into the car and drove to my dorm.
That's it! ふうふうふう。もうやばかったな。That was quite something. Thank you everyone for coming. Oh, so many people. ラキクニさん、来てくれてありがとうございます。ドネーションとメンバーシップもありがとうございます。本当に、ありがとうございます。あと、Hi, Lago, welcome. Hello, Tommy. Hello, Moni. Hello, Anson. 嵐さん、コンププー。Did I miss anyone? Yummy. Yeah. Hi, Yummy. 嵐さん、ありがとうございます。Thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, that's a lot of bleep. Yeah, it was a very, not, family-friendly story. 大丈夫かな？一応。ジョージさんごめんジョージさん Hello, George. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for always coming to my streams and always supporting me. Thank you so much. I thought I said hi in the beginning. I forgot. ごめんね。Yeah, that's a lot of bleep because this is a very not family-friendly story. I think I bleeped enough so that it should be fine for YouTube. But yeah. あともう一個読みたいんだ。I wanna read another one. How's this one? This one is... Oh, this one is like even more... even steamier. もう一個ね、読みたいんですけど、もう一個ね、これ、さっきのよりもやばいやつかも。よし。じゃあちょっとタイトルと作者さんの名前も書いてやろうかな。Yeah, it's even steamier than the one that I just read, so I have to be careful not to read out the やばいwords. これだ。And待って。Wait, why can't I do that? 待って。Wait. 難しい。Wait, this is so difficult. Yeah, I want to make sure I credit them accurately, so just give me some time. ごめんね、ちょっとね、ちゃんと名前書きたいから。これね。OK。よいしょ。これで合ってるんでしょう。I think this should be correct. Yes. Okay. And yes. Okay, this is the second story.
I'm gonna be reading. It's a little bit more steamier than the first one, so... ひーひーひー。大丈夫かな？大丈夫かな？うん。ちょっとお茶飲みますわ。Okay, I'm gonna drink some water. うん。Alright, the second one is called I've Seen You Before, Sweetheart, Don't Hide by Being Just Me on Wattpad. Please look it up if you want to read alongside with me. And if you want to know what the censored words are. Okay. The rich mahogany of the wood-paneled flooring and the soft, creamy textures of the tall walls contrasted beautifully. Those colors, combined with the deep reds, browns, and beiges, gave off an ambience of warmth. The fire in the hearth was flickering with a light crackling sound, heating the cabin right up. A throaty voice drawled seductively from an old finial, and the smooth sounds behind the voice danced along the walls and throughout the cozy family room, and into the kitchen. The kitchen was another magnificent room, with marble-tiled flooring and granite countertops. It was decorated with stainless steel appliances and the magnificent gas stove installed atop the island counter in the center of the room. Towards the far corner along the counter that was against the wall, there was a great sink before which was an open window. Frost from the biting cold lined the glass, and she stood washing the dinner plates at the sink and staring out that window. It was a full moon that night, and despite the cold, it was a clear night. No one lived near this cabin for miles, out there in the more wooded area of the town. The guests had just left not too long ago, and since then, the breeze had picked up outside. The wind moaned around the cabin, but it was far too quiet for her to notice. She tucked a lock of auburn hair behind her right ear and continued to work. Standing where she was, barefoot, her hips swaying, she looked delectable. She wore her knee-length dinner dress, a creamy beige that nearly blended with her skin and had faded tufts of deep blue all through it. From her dainty ears hung a set of soft pearl earring, along with a long pearl necklace that hung around her delicate neck. Sitting just above the round peaks of the creamy skin at her breasts. Her skin looked almost rosy under the kitchen lights, and her dark reddish-brown tresses looked stark against her skin. The long curls had been down all evening, but as the guests left, she twisted them up into a loose bun, and a few stray strands framed her cheeks. Her name was Lily. As she finished with the dishes, she wrung out a cloth and began to wipe down the counter, leaning forward into it slightly. It was then that she felt a pair of well-muscled, large, and comfortingly warm arms snake around her waist and pulled her backwards into a tall, hard body. Startled at first, her lips parted on a small gasp before she recognized the smell of him. Giggling, she turned her head to the side to see him as best as she could, as he pressed in close. He wore only his black trousers, and she squirmed. Her giggles turned into whimpers as his lips reached the sensitive skin behind her ear. His skin was darker than hers, tanned from working under the sun, and her head barely reached his broad shoulders, resting at his chest. His hair was naturally so dark it almost looked black, and the color of his eyes stood out against his skin, a cool gray. Her own eyes were warm hazel, and though his eyes could seem cold at times, while those eyes were looking at her, anyone could see the gray turned molten. His name was Adam, her husband. Squirming as his hand slid open, palm in over the soft curve of her belly, Lily tried to pry his fingers away. I'm not done cleaning yet, Adam. If you won't help then, at least don't distract me, she said in an impatient voice. His grip tightened on her and he pressed in closer. It was then that she felt his evident arousal, hot and pulsing, pressed against her. Lily's eyes widened and she screamed. Adam, I'm not done clean. She started to stammer out. She wasn't sure what had gotten him to this point, and before she could finish her sentence, he spun her around, only to trap her between his large frame and the counter. Before she could utter another word, his lips caught hers, effortlessly, in a searing kiss. Her breath left her as he tugged at her lips with his own, and parted her only to slide his tongue inside and explore her. His tongue moved in and then out of her, and then pulled back to nibble on her bottom lip. Hungry herself now, Lily lifted up on her toes and reached up to slide her fingers along his jaw and let her own smaller tongue flick out to taste his lips. Moaning, he pulled away and looked down at her, already ragged with need. Her lips were a tad swollen now, and his whiskers had left some redness around her mouth. Damn, he loved how she looked just then, dazed, breathless, and marked as his. A possessive need overcame him, and he lifted him off her feet with one final grunt of decision. He would take her, tonight, right away, as he scooped her up. Lily looked startled yet again and began to squirm in his arms. Suddenly, the realization of what was happening sank in, and she flushed deeper. Adam, I still need to get changed, and the dining table is a mess, she went on, and then gasped as she remembered something. Not even a week ago, he'd been hurt while working. It had been a long day, and the doctor that had tended to his stitches told him specifically to not do anything vigorous. Her cheeks became scarlet as she thought to herself, he is always vigorous with these things. And you're hurt. Oh dear Lord, Adam, the doctor said no heavy lifting. Oh, put me down. You'll hurt yourself. Scowling at her, he stood at the bottom of the stairs leading up to their bedroom and looked down at her, a small little thing in his arms, and said, Babe, the only thing hurting me right now are these damned pants. Oh God. Satisfied with the silence that fell upon her after a short gasp, he grinned at her flushed cheeks and leaned in to kiss each one, and then her nose. Up they went, then, until he reached the bedroom door. He kicked it open, and moving up to the large, plush bed, he lowered his wife down onto the mattress. Crawling up on top of her, he kissed her once more before trailing kisses down over her chin and then her neck, only to kiss his way back up along her jaw to suck on her earlobe with his lips and kiss her there. The food was great tonight, you know, he mumbled distractedly as he worshipped her soft skin. Oh, was all she could say. Yeah, and the setup was nice. He sighed the last word as he kissed back down her neck and caught her squirming. That's good, she gasped. And you. He trailed his kisses lower to her chest before reaching between them and slowly lifting the hem of the dress up and over her head. He sucked in his breath as he removed it whole and watched her laying there before him, bare to his gaze, in nothing but her tiny lace panties. Adam's steamy gaze then moved up to the rosy peaks of her full breasts. He groaned, the sight of her nearly undoing him. I what? She stammered shyly, lifting her lashes to watch him carefully. Looking up in her eyes, he bit his bottom lip before leaning in close again, heat rippling off him. You look delicious. Good enough to eat. As he spoke the last few words, he dipped his head lower and lower, until after the last word, he caught one of her with his lips. Lily let out a startled squeak, and her back arched upwards as her eyes squeezed shut, and she turned her face away weakly. Reaching up, she slid her fingers through his hair and squirmed as his tongue joined his lips, heightening the small, quick pulses of pleasure that shot through her with each suckle. Groaning, she squirmed beneath him, and her fingers moved over his shoulders then, and down his arms. Back up his arms, she rested her hands over his shoulders, her gentle kneading fingers driving him nearly over the edge. Pulling away, he moved to the other and did the same thing. Gasping for breath, she was sure she'd come from just his lips doing the same things he was doing. Finally, moving from her, now beaded, he reached down to those lace panties of her and ever so slowly slid them all the way down her shapely legs and over her finely boned feet. As he tossed them aside, he looked at her and shook his head as she reached down to cover her privates instinctively. I've seen you before, sweetheart. Don't hide, he said in a quiet, rumbling voice. A slow smile then curved her lips as she spread her legs and revealed to him that the wet proof of her equal arousal. Groaning, he reached for her, but she quickly scooted out of reach. Shaking her head at him, she lowered herself onto her back again, and then, legs parted, she reached down and parted her lips for him, before slowly running her finger up and then down over those lips. Then ever so slowly, she began to pleasure herself in front of him, moaning and stretching and straining, going fast, then slow. Her breasts bounced with her scrumming and slightly jerking movements as her fingers brushed up against overly sensitive spots. Adam watched, his jaw clenched and his hands in fists as she writhed before him and did to herself what he needed to do to her. Her gasps came quicker and became louder until finally she came, exploding into a million fragments. Lily moaned long and hard, her heels sticking to the bed. After a few minutes, when she'd gained enough strength and wit, she sat up on her knees and looked up at him. While she'd been putting on a show for him, he'd quietly removed his pants, and she could see the prominent evidence of his arousal. His thick member curled up with a rush of hot blood surging through him. Biting her bottom lip, she crawled towards him on all fours and moved up to place a warm, welcoming kiss on his lip. Tugging on her lower lip between his teeth, he pressed his hot palms against the beaded tips of her before running them down to cup her round behind and press her more firmly to him. As his pulsing male pressed to her, she squeaked and quickly shimmied out of his reach, shaking her head playfully. "No, it's my turn," she whispered, and then, sitting on her knees, she pushed him back onto the bed. Once he was leaning back against the pillows, she shyly got on all fours and ever so slowly leaned her head down. Before he could look up to watch her move, she lowered her soft lips over the head of him, and he groaned at the feel of her soft, warm breath falling over him. As he moaned, she lowered her lips further only to pull back and run her tongue along the length of him. Moaning softly at the flavor she found there, she began to kiss from the tip of him all the way down to the base. Teasing him with her tongue and lips, she moaned again and felt him tense. Adam felt his control slipping and his every muscle tensed and rippling with desire. On a low growl, he moved her up and over him, and before she knew it, she was beneath him and on her back. Looking up at him, she started to slide her hands back down towards his throbbing. But I wasn't... He cut her words short, and he quickly grasped her delicate wrist between one of his large hands and pinned them gently back above her head. Lily squirmed a little, startled, and looked up at him, suddenly shy again. He lowered himself then on top of her until she could feel every inch of him pressed to her much smaller and softer frame. Feeling his arousal against the inside of one of her silky smooth thighs, she closed her eyes tight and he slowly spread her legs wider and leaned in to whisper sweet, erotic promises into her ear. Trembling with need, she whimpered as she felt him against her damp opening. Adam kissed her then, deep and hard. Then, without warning, he thrust deep into her, and she cried out loudly, her body aching up to meet his, and her hips squirming in startled protest. His hands now on his hips held her tight as he began to slowly and steadily rock himself inside of her. Her startled gasp turned into moans of pleasure, and those soft, yes, sinfully sexy sounds that came from her swollen lips grew louder and louder. Adam pumped in and out of her, his pace getting quicker, yet deeper. She felt so impossibly full of him, and she bit her bottom lip to muffle her sounds to no avail. Her moans turned into a steady rhythm of oaths and ahs as he moved with her, and together they climbed one peak and then another. Adam grit his teeth, feeling her inner walls convulsing and clamping down on him again and again as he brought her to one more climax, and then another. Lily's fingers dug into his back as she clung to him for dear life and writhed beneath him, overwhelmed with the intense pleasure thrumming through her. Suddenly, his pace picked up yet again, and he was pushing himself into her faster and deeper and harder. She was sure that she couldn't come another time. She'd lost count of the shattering orgasms she just endured, and as he showered kisses all over her shoulders and neck and chest, she held on and gasped for breath. Adam, I can't. Oh. As she started to protest, she felt her body give in to the pleasures he provided. Nearly screaming his name, she tumbled over the edge yet again, her body writhing and jerking beneath him as he elongated her pleasure with his relentless thrusting. She was whimpering from the pleasure and digging her nails into his shoulders and arms now, trying desperately to hold on. At last, he reached the peak with her and groaned as he released his seat deep inside of her. Grunting, he held her close, spilling into her, and she held on to him, breathless and dazed. Feeling helplessly full, she closed her eyes, flushed and exhausted. Gathering her close, Adam cuddled up behind her and placed a gentle kiss upon her forehead. Smiling sleepily up at him, she shivered and burrowed in closer to his chest, turning to face him. Moving as she shivered, he quickly tucked her in beneath the sheets, joining her a moment later. I don't know what's gotten into you, Adam, but She stammered and stopped as he finished for her. Was amazing? He said quietly, grinning at her with his eyes closed as she laid her head on his chest. I was gonna say, pretty good. She giggled drowsily. Pretty good? Did you forget what just happened already? Here, let me remind you. Adam reached for her seductively and laughing softly. Lily smacked his arm gently. Okay, it was amazing, she said quietly. That's my girl. Lily yawned and curled up beside him. Snuggled together, they slowly drifted off to sleep. やばいね。これやばい。マジでやばい。これ日本語で言ったら一発でアウトだわ。If I read this in Japanese, I think I would get like banned right away. But because it's in English, I think it's like less obvious what's going on. Yeah, so that was good. Happy end, yeah, happy end. やばかったな。That was quite steamy. Donation! Thank you so much for the donation. Yeah. Thank you so much. Gee, that's George. Thank you so much, George, for the donation. ありがとうね。メッセージないか？リクエストないか？ Okay. Well, that was like the two stories were the ones I planned for today. But, if you guys have any requests, or if there's anything else you guys want me to read, please let me know. そう。今日はね、この2つだけ予定しているんですけど、なんか、まあね、もしよければ、リクエストがあれば、教えてください。Hi, Joel Amateur, welcome! Oh my gosh, did you just come? Ooh, that sounds a little bit sus, but yeah. Did you just arrive here? We have just finished with two very, very, steamy stories. I don't know, I haven't read one recently. そっか。ちなみにね、明日はですね、そう、明日もね、普通の ASMR じゃなくって、ちょっとね、ゲームを、久しぶりにゲーム配信やりたいと思います。ゲーム配信だけど、ささやきながらやる予定のやつ。I'm gonna be, doing another game stream tomorrow, but it's gonna be soft spoken. So it's not a normal game stream, but it's like kind of like ASMR. Apex, no, not Apex. そう、でもね、そう、明日はね、Don't Scream っていうゲームやる予定です。I'm gonna be playing Don't Scream tomorrow. So hopefully I won't break your eardrums. I'll try my best. I'll try my best to not scream. That's the whole point of that, game. So I will try my best. そう、明日は、こんな風にね、ちょっと、ささやきながらゲームやるんですけど、叫んじゃったらごめんなさい。叫ばないように頑張ります。Yeah, ASMR horror game. I don't know if you guys will enjoy that, but I think it would be interesting to do. まあ、ということで、まあ、リクエストもないようで、いや本当に今日ね、来てくれて、あとスパチャもありがとうございました。で、明日も、また配信するので、よかったら、また、遊びに来てください。Okay, I hope to see you guys again tomorrow. I'll be streaming again tomorrow at the same time. So yeah,
Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next stream. また次の配信でお会いしましょう。おつぷぷー。